And just like that, we are now live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Philosophox. I am your host, Voksy. No, I need to work on an intro, but I will do that eventually. Voksy Nikku, both of us are idiots, and we're both here to talk about shit that no one really wants to know the answers to, but we're talking about it anyway because why not? If anyone is tuning in to the stream, I certainly encourage you all to join in on the conversation. We have done a terrible job of advertising this stream because we just decided to do it spontaneously, and I haven't tweeted about it. But anyway, no matter. If anyone joins in, they're welcome to participate in the conversation as well. But yes. Monsieur Nikku.
So, we were having a chat earlier, and you wanted to talk about purchasing happiness, and that is such a big topic for me that I thought we'd get right down to the heart of it and then branch out and see where it takes us. But I really want to talk about what people do wrong when it comes to happiness. But I think we'll start at the start. So for me, the start is actually clarifying. It might sound like, okay, this is an obvious thing, right? It's happiness. Everyone knows what happiness is, looks like, all of that sort of thing. But to me, everyone has a different idea of what happiness means.
Yeah.
And so, what is happiness? Like, what do you think happiness is?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I think when I imagine the meaning of happiness, sorry, not the meaning of happiness. Sorry, I really need to be clear. When I think of what the word happiness is for me, the word happiness is in reference to the physiological response or the physiological state of being in a happy frame of mind, in a happy state. And so it's just, I guess for me, happiness is that end result. Happiness is not something that I'm looking at things and going, well, happiness needs to have a title, it needs to have a logo, it needs to have an item that represents it. You know, I think that my fox is the embodiment of happiness for me, but that's also a separate topic that I don't really classify that as the same thing. I see that as, well, that's then me talking about the specifics of the relationship that Fox has, that I have with Fox and Fox has with me. But that's what I see as happiness, is the end result, that physiological response within your body that is you feeling good and you feeling happy.
Yeah, so it's like that elated feeling you get when
it's that euphoric feeling, the endorphins are rushing through the body or whatever it is that's happening, you know, when you just feel good and you feel happy and you feel content, you know, whatever it is that brings on that feeling, it is that feeling.
Well, it's interesting that you say contentment because I would definitely class contentment as like a separate aside, because when you're content, you're not necessarily happy and you're not necessarily sad. You're just sort of at peace with what's around you.
Yeah.
And I would like to make sure that we both have that as like a separate thing.
Yes. Good to distinguish those two, because you are absolutely right. You can be discontented with things, but happy in the moment. It's like your acknowledgement of discontentment is actually what brings you the happiness.
It's for some people, yeah.
I love it.
Okay. So I'm loving that we both have a very similar idea of what happiness is. It's that elation, it's that euphoric feeling. It's, you know, you got picked first prize for something. Oh, you're so happy, you're over the moon. Or maybe someone just gives you a nice compliment and you just get that little flare of, oh, thanks, and it makes you happy. So the next thing I would want to ask, and obviously I think we're going to agree 100% on this one as well, which is, is happiness something that can last? Can you have a lasting happiness? Or is it really just that elated feeling? And if it is that elated feeling, is there a way to keep that elated feeling prolonged indefinitely, or not?
Okay, so that is a magnificent topic, isn't it? Far out. God, you're good. I hate you. You're shit. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know.
let's dive into this. So happiness, for me, I have experienced happiness that has been so prolonged that there was really no end to it, because the happiness was in the form of enjoying peace and enjoying stillness, and that brought me happiness. And so I was actually in this constant state of happiness. It wasn't like your brain was pulling you into neutral to say, hey, look, man, you've been happy too many days. I'm going to have to ask you to calm down, all right? You know, that wasn't happening for me. It was actually just this really wonderful and beautiful and magical state of just being happy and being appreciative, and that was bringing on that feeling. And I can't remember the second part of your question. I'm sorry.
Well, that sort of answers it. And thank
good.
you, Mr. Duck Viper. His happiness is seeing you happy.
Oh, and that makes me happy. Awesome. Yeah, if you could see me smiling, you would, but you can't. So all you get is this fox.
You just have to believe him.
Yeah. Warm in the cockles of my heart. Seriously.
So I would actually, the kind of happiness that you're talking about there, I think I would call that something else. I think I would call that more
contentment,
feeling of appreciation, like that appreciative feeling, like when you've got so many things going right in your life and you're just basking in the gratitude of
are we talking when you're saying the word happiness, are you referring to the form of having been entertained to then receive that happiness, or are you saying that it is just that physiological feeling of good?
Yeah, that good physiological feeling.
Because
but it's a
that
very
then
specific
I would
good, right?
Well, kind of, because I would have thought that what you just said, that it is not. In my opinion, it is, right? Because I felt, and the label that I would put on it is, I felt that I was happy. I was happy with the way that the fields were, right? Just, remaining in my place, appreciating the stillness, looking over the fields and going, well, for what this is beautiful. And I am, yes, I am appreciative in this moment. Yes, I am grateful in this moment. But this moment brings me happiness. And that happiness is that I am positive. I guess it's what I mean to say is it's that positivity, that emanating positivity that comes from my being in that moment of greatness and of stillness and peace. It's that, and I don't know whether that then, if there's some issue there where semantics of the explanation sort of kick that out of the happiness boat. If it does, I don't particularly care, because I'll just keep calling it happy, because people, as far as the tool of the English language is concerned, I say happy, you do know what I'm referring to, but and most people I feel would, right?
No, but here's the rub.
There are some that don't, though, but yep.
Here is the rub, and here is why I put in the title, what you're doing wrong, right?
Ooh.
Yes.
What is this? What I'm doing wrong? Is this a personal attack?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm
Did I
attacking
need
you
to?
direct now.
Did I need to bring coffee or wine for this, or can I be
Oh,
sober?
probably a bottle of wine. Yeah, nah, I don't have any. So unless you're gonna buy me some,
Neither.
not good enough.
Damn.
No, I think it's something that most people sort of fall into,
Yeah.
which I deem to be, and again, I'm not a professional, but I deem it to be very
Yeah.
unhealthy, and it is this pursuit of happiness, because you might have this extended period of time where you're like, okay, I'm filled with positivity, right?
Yeah.
Which you can call that happiness for sure. People might understand what you mean, or they might not, depending on sort of how they place it.
Yeah.
But it's such a broad word in language, and and so you sort of want to chase that feeling of positivity all the time.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thought, but I am fairly certain that our brains are meant to reach equilibrium at all points.
100%.
So what they want is our brains want to be
balanced.
Bring ourselves back to balance. Yeah, bring ourselves back to balance. Yeah. And I think it can be a balancing act where you sort of do appreciate and enjoy life and work to find the positivity.
Yeah.
But there's a far more dangerous and far more toxic, I think, thing that people do, searching for happiness, where they want to find that thing that made them happy, and they go back to it.
Yeah.
And they search for that thing that kept making them happy because they experienced what you experienced. And they're like, okay, that thing there, that's what made me happy.
Yeah, man.
And they hunt for it and they chase it, and then they get it eventually, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's good to get that back. But then it doesn't have the same color to it. Like the experience doesn't have the same color to it. It's sort of
you're desensitized in a way, because that now begins the new equilibrium, the new balance point, which is your exposure to that constance of happiness. It's only natural that either it's going to bounce into the opposite end of the spectrum, and that's an important word to use here, is spectrum, because we are talking about this spectrum of neutrality, happiness, and sadness. And not to say that sadness isn't also anger. It's just sort of like positivity and negativity, right? And some of those positivity words that we'll use, one of those being happiness or contentment or whatever, and then negativity, which is your sadness, your depression, your anger, your jealousy, whatever it may be.
Well, anger's a separate, very interesting thing in and of itself.
We'll discuss that later.
I think that
we'll
might
discuss
be a different, different stream for that
we
one.
we don't want to do a stream for 3 to 4 hours. We want to do a stream maximum 2 hours is the limit, Mr. Daniel. We're just not going to do it.
No.
But no, you are 100% right. That was one thing that I learned when I was getting therapy years ago. Just for general autism-related thought patterns, and for autism-related overthinking, for autism-related over-emotional response to things, right? And that was the fact that there is this. It's annoying, but you can't change it, so you have to accept it. Is the fact that there is this spectrum, and whenever you remove something that was so great from happiness, the removing of that will always put you back into the negative, and it's only natural. And that's why whenever, like, as far as as far as internal dialogue goes, when you are experiencing something that is negative and it's from something, right? There's actually some form of dialogue that can be had here. Like, for example, I just lost my dad, right? Well, then you sit there and go, in that moment of sadness, that moment of negativity, you say, thank you. Thank you for this real deep pitting, horrid sense of sadness, because I know that this is the direct response of losing such greatness, such positivity, such wonderful experiences in my life, and those being gone will only naturally evoke this this natural balance across to the other side before things go back into the middle. And it doesn't make the pain go away. Yeah, it doesn't make the pain go away, but goes back eventually.
Yeah.
Unless you're unlucky. Unless you're really unlucky, in which case you'll just live in pain forever and you'll look like us. We go, wow, these bastards are really upset all the time.
Although I think I have a happy, I have a healthy fluctuation most of the time. Sometimes I've got a bit of a weird dip and weird rise that needs tending to. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, and also I just noticed the comment from Dark Viper. So I didn't lose my dad recently. It was just an example. That was back in 2015. So yeah, but I do appreciate the condolences, because I actually still mourn him, because I'm just always so fucking sad. For someone who's like eternally optimistic, because I'm an optimistic realist, which doesn't exist, but I call myself that anyway because it doesn't make sense, and neither does my brain. I know. But is the fact that, when you lose something that great, as exactly as you said, pain is the price that we pay for true love or true connection, or whatever it was that you worded it with.
Yeah.
So,
and there's that movie that came out, Inside Out, which I think is one of the best ways that you can ever explain this, especially to young people that would struggle to grapple with all that sort of thing, is also the memories that you have when you look back beforehand would have been happy memories, and now when you look back, they're bittersweet memories. They carry along with it the sadness. This happiness is still there, and you're like, yes, that was a good time, but it also carries with it this bitterness now that wasn't there before. And I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Quick guitar break.
Oh, I see how it is.
Oh.
Yeah. I know what that means.
It's time for the guitar.
Yeah, it's time for the guitar. So anyway, what happens in this part of the segment is there is a musical interlude due to nature doing its thing and calling upon people who must be called upon. Ooh. Think, what could this possibly mean?
Right back in a tick.
That's great. You're an idiot. And just like that, the musical interlude is done. I thought that was actually quite peaceful music, considering what that music was the inherent theme song for. Anyway, we're getting back into it. And yeah, there we go.
Alrighty.
Yeehaw. Anyways, we're back.
So, we're back. I'm back. I keep
You're
myself
back.
very well hydrated.
And there we go. That's why I play guitar. It's because nature calls, whether you like it or not. That's great. I gave you a theme song, you idiot.
I couldn't hear it. Discord is so bad at just
I know,
cancelling out anything
Yeah.
that's not exactly your voice.
Should I fix that
alright
and just like have it so that it's more geared towards everything?
We can try
Considering
and do that a
how
little
we're
later
going
on.
to be using it together,
Yeah,
perhaps
we
that's
can try and do that a little later on.
Okay, we'll try and do that a little later.
It may
on.
not be
Anyway,
perfect, but yeah.
that's fine. Moving
So,
on.
we just covered why
Yes.
why it can be toxic for people to
Yes.
chase happiness, and the way that we chase happiness is often not the right way to go about it, and why that is.
Yeah.
Because it can just lead to basically like an addiction where you sort of chase that happy feeling, and then you get it for a brief moment, and then you're like, okay, it's gone again. I have to do something else that's fun. Where's the fun at? And then it just devolves into really dark things.
Yeah.
So I guess the next question would be how should happiness be achieved if that's not the right way of going about it?
Oh, well, you purchase it.
Oh yeah. You did mention that. I didn't even get around to that one.
I know.
How does one purchase happiness? What do we mean by that?
You go to a bottle shop and you buy a bottle of wine.
Why not go to your local blackie and just get a bottle of cocaine?
Man, you are a genius, and this video has instantly been demonetized for the entirety of its future.
Oh, good.
That's great. Anyway, but not that I foresee myself being monetized, but that's a separate issue. So.
Well, if you do get monetized, I'll be a little more careful about my.
Oh, I tell you what, could you imagine that? That'd be terrifying. That'd be so bad. That needs to not happen. We need to make sure that my channel remains unpopular, so you all owe it to yourself. If you have not subscribed yet, don't do it. For us, for our sanity and for yours, don't do it, okay? Thank you. Moving on.
So is that what you actually meant by
no, it's not. It's not. Nah, what I was discussing was the fact that that's what people are doing when they go out for a night on the piss, right? They go, I'm going to spend $160 buying all my mates and myself beer and getting myself a Palmer, and we're going to get shit-faced tonight, right? We're going to go out and get shit-faced, and they have a wonderful time. And then tomorrow morning comes. You've got a little bit of a headache. You're not feeling 100% flash. And so you've got this sort of negative taste in your mouth from the come down of what it is that you've just experienced. And you've also just removed some finances in your life. You've tampered with those finances, and all of a sudden that's gone now forever. And then I look at the fact that
added stress.
Yes, and then I look at the fact that I purchased happiness, right? Because then I think, well, my fox brings me so much happiness more than anything else on this planet. And so in a way, if you were to look at it in this mindset, I participated in the purchasing of happiness. And that's really shallow, right? That's incredibly shallow, as long as you look at it down this path. However, it's also something where I don't know if I would call it shallow because of how much Fox means to me, right? Because of truly how much Fox means to me. Whereas a night out in the piss, which over a year you've bought like 2 of these giant rat costumes, well, you know, that, like, who won? Who lost? Right?
Yeah, I've got...
you know what I mean?
I actually have... Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And this is actually why I separate... I know it's a bit semantics, but...
It is very
really
semantics,
important to me.
But it is good.
Well, it's not really semantics, because it's like... These semantics, if you don't distinguish, okay, this is happiness and this is something else, then you fall into this way of thinking where you sort of conflate these 2 different things that you just mentioned, and you sort of put them together and you say, well, these are both buying happiness, I guess. Whereas I would say, when you go on the night out, yeah, you're spending money and you're, I guess, purchasing happiness. And if you go out and you buy alcohol, you come home and you drink and do whatever, and that makes you happier than you would have been without the alcohol. You might want to see someone, but also, you did purchase happiness. Now, when my brother buys a piano,
yes,
or I buy an iPhone, or a new Android phone, hopefully in the year to come, or you buy a fursuit, we've each purchased a rat costume. Yes, there we go. That's the correct term for it, I believe.
Yes. An elaborate rat costume.
An elaborate rat costume.
Yes.
With many details and money spent on it.
Yes.
Yes. There's something different about those things. Yeah. Not only is it not just an event that's consumable, but it's sort of like a gift that keeps on giving, and it turns into something more than happiness. For me, the way I look at it is actually we have a type of love for our things. So I think Andrew really loves his piano.
Yes.
When I built my old computer that I had to sell, unfortunately, to pay for rent, I loved that computer. That computer brought me so much happiness. Like, it kept giving me happiness. And when I had a really nice working phone, it brought me so much peace, because I didn't have any stress of how long is it taking, is my phone going to work today? Am I going to be in contact? Am I going to be able to respond to someone? Is it going to just shut down halfway through a phone call? Like, that stress was removed, and so there was a kind of love and appreciation, I guess, just for a phone.
Yeah.
And obviously, you have your costume, and I won't speak to how you feel about that one.
Yes, but that's what I was getting.
More than happiness.
Yeah, it's so much more than happiness. But that's sort of where I was getting at with the question, right? Because it was a bit of a philosophical joust that I was having in the car with Bossman, and it was just like, if you just wanted to be simple, and you wanted to be simple and ask a silly question or have a silly mindset, and that silly mindset was to be, well, what you're doing is you're purchasing happiness. Well, then I feel that there's enough there to say that that makes sense as a concept to talk about and to question and to look into, because of the fact that you have this consumable, right, which is an event. A consumable is an event. Drinking is an event. Eating is an event. The event exists in a space in time, and then it's now gone because that event is no longer happening. It has happened, right? And you can't really relive that to its fullest extent. You can still relive it to a relative extent, depending on how you are. Some people can relive things quite well, others not so much. But when we're looking at then other things of these purchasings of happiness in their other forms, whether it be a piano, a good camera, a good computer, a car, an elaborate rat costume, whatever it may be, what you have done is you have made a purchase, and that purchase, you know that you are making it with this anticipation, perhaps, right? This anticipation that it will deliver you happiness, which also then can deliver remorse if it does not entirely deliver the happiness. For example, you buy a used car, the used car turns out to be a lemon, you're naturally going to feel quite upset, and the happiness that it was meant to bring you is actually shattered and gone, and you feel it all withdrawn from your system every time you're driving it. And so that's different as well. But still, the principle in which there was an item or an event that you were purchasing, right? Just as you can also, it's like that Alan Watts philosophy that you're actually purchasing ideologies and you're actually purchasing philosophies, right? And then you have an investment in that ideology or that philosophy because you've made the investment of time, and that is a purchase. That's a transaction of I will give my time studying it to then having it involved in my life. And so now there's this anticipation, well, it needs to be good now because I've put in the effort, you know?
Yes.
And that's then separate too. But that's also for another video where we do a video saying, Nikku and Voksy watching 30 hours of Alan Watts lectures. We're going to be up for weeks. It's going to be great. It's going to be so bad.
But I think you've actually brought up an interesting thing there as well, because when you first there's this novelty experience when you first get a thing, right? You get a new phone, there's a novelty of it, and that brings you elated joy. There's this euphoric feeling, you know, how we described happiness before. Same with everything else. You get that initial elated feeling, but then it has to transform into something else in order for you to keep being positive about it. You can't, at least for most people that I know of, they don't sit there, they don't every time they interact with their phone go, oh my god, it's so beautiful and new, oh my god.
Yeah, certainly not a phone, because a phone you're on all the time, and a car, in my case, I'm not driving all the time, right? Because I don't have a job, I don't, you know, because of the disability and whatever. And so every time I'm driving it, there is this huge procurement of joy and of satisfaction and of happiness and of just mindfulness of embracing what it is like to drive this absolutely massive limo. But in what you're saying is so accurate, because you're 100% enveloped in those things. They are so part of your day-to-day living and your being. And so it's only natural that there's going to be a come down eventually if you don't facilitate one in the enjoyment of that thing. I could not at all spend every living moment dressed up as my gorgeous Voksy. I could not, because I know if I did, there would come a point where your skin starts to itch because of how hot it is, and all of a sudden you look at him and you go, you're more cuter when I'm not inside you than you are when I am inside you. So you're just going to sit on the bed for a little bit, right?
Oh my god. You know what you just reminded me of?
Oh good. What are we going
You just remind me of parents.
Oh,
every parent ever, every single one of them, they have the baby. There is this explosion of happiness and joy and wonder. And, it's beautiful, my little alien that looks like it's Benjamin Button. And then that just gradually deforms for a lot of parents into this like, I wish it would shut up. And and, you know, it has to transform into love and care and appreciation for the learning that they do, and the ability to share in their fun. And
Yeah.
you can keep getting joy from it. Yes, you can still have your happy moments with the children. Yes, but it transforms into a different kind of happiness.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as that novelty factor.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Bro, chill.
Yeah. Ignore that. We're moderating the
Oh,
comments afterwards. Don't worry.
yeah,
Such
I'll
is
ignore
life.
that one.
But yes, what the other what Viper said,
Yeah,
we'll be
bro,
responsible
chill.
here. This may not be a family friendly platform, but it's still as family friendly as it's able to be because we're not entirely weird. I am a little bit, and that's okay. But I toggle that switch on and off at will for your benefit and for your safety. Oh, that's right. You can't see the camera because I just waved. But yeah, all good, Viper. Appreciate your
I can
calling
see
out,
you
and you're all
about
fine.
a moment ago.
Oh, that's right. Because you're watching.
Yeah, I got it over there
Okay.
in the admin thing so that it doesn't come up as I'm a viewer.
Oh well, then no. Then you could moderate.
I could.
Ah.
Um,
Oh, look
Although I
at
think Dark
us.
Viper has done a great way of moderating himself, moderating
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
person,
The other person who shall not be named.
the other person.
The other person
Yeah,
who shall not be named.
shall not be named.
Yes. Anyway, but thank you for your understanding, other person who shall not be named. So, moving on.
Moving on.
So, where did we get to? We had a segue. Oh, that was right. It was sort of. Is that called postnatal depression? Is that what that is?
It can be. It can
Okay.
definitely be. Postnatal depression is a.
Or is it remorse of why did I purchase this? Why did I purchase the sex
That would be a
brought
part
this
of
baby?
that would be a part of postnatal depression. Yes. Also feeling like you're not doing enough.
Oh
And,
no.
oh, there's so many things that come with postnatal depression. That would be an entire segment on its own.
Yeah, and the really sad thing is with postnatal depression or anything of that caliber, it is like that is serious stuff that you're in, right? If you are experiencing that, there is no taking away from the fact that that truly, without a shadow of doubt, is going to feel like it's going to kill you. No question about it.
Or someone else.
Or someone
The
else.
worst, and that actually kind of ties in nicely because a lot of the time, people get postnatal depression because other parents have, and we do this on Facebook and everything. We show this perfect version of how happy we are with things, right? I'm so entirely happy with my children. They're beautiful. They're doing this. They're doing that. And then you're sitting there like, my one smears the shit on the walls.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? And why am I not happy with them right now? I must be terrible.
Right.
So you're not meant to be happy all the time. They are not perpetual machines of joy. Nothing is.
Perpetual machine of joy.
It's not.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah, it's not like that. And
Okay.
I think there's this toxic approach that, a lot of our
Yeah.
society has. And it just comes back to that toxic approach of, I should be happy. I shouldn't be upset by these things. I've got so much to be happy about. And sometimes, no. You're actually just not happy. But happiness will come.
Yes. You're
But you
certainly
can't make it come.
Yeah, you haven't withdrawn your you have not withdrawn your ability to experience the sensation of happiness. You are still capable of experiencing that. It's not like you're now this some bizarre alien that has just rocked up on the planet that has a total inability to process the feeling of joy and wonder and greatness and beauty and happiness. Mind you, on saying that, I'm sure there is a condition out there actually, and I don't know whether this is a toggle switch on and off sort of thing, or if this is a genetic at birth or whatever it is, that people are unable to experience things like happiness. I imagine that would be a condition, and I know that we will find this out.
The closest thing I know of is depression.
Yeah.
Clinical depression. One that requires medication.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening is, as we said, the brain sort of wants to reach equilibrium again. It wants balance. It wants to find the balance and sit there. It return to that place. The return to that place of balance. It always wants to return there.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah.
Oh dear. I'm sorry about my accent. I actually can't help it.
It is a direct attack, but that's okay. Acceptance.
I'll take it. Take it. Yeah. I know what happens. I just can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our brain always wants to return there, and sometimes people that can clinically be diagnosed with things like depression, or let's say you have bipolar, or something along those lines, is your equilibrium will move. And so if you have major depressive disorder, your equilibrium is actually lower, so your brain just keeps trying to equalize at a lower point. And so you actually can't get to joy because going upwards, it just goes to neutral. Now, most people, if they sit at a really low point for a while, that will become their new neutral. That's what most people do. And that lower point is now neutral. And when they reach the middle and they're like, I don't have stress, I don't have this, they actually feel that happiness and they feel elated when they come back to normal. But people with major depressive disorder don't do that. They get back to normal and they're like, well, I just feel normal. That's kind of nice. Yeah. Well, it's nice that I don't want to hurt myself or any other one else in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be a kind of condition like that.
An offset equilibrium. An offset neutral point. Righto.
And this is an interesting thing that I spoke with a not a psychologist but a counselor, and I think their words ring true. You can actually give yourself depression if you want to, I guess.
Yes.
Or you can go in the other direction. And he likened it to, you fall into a hole, and if you keep coming back there, you're actually digging a trench, and you dig it deeper every time.
Yes.
And if you let your brain keep going back there and you keep digging that trench, eventually you get deep enough where, you've now got something that needs treating. You've got something that you need help to get yourself back out.
Yeah. And there's also what can happen with some people, which is where they create this sort of bed of depression and it gets comfortable. But it gets comfortable in a painful way because the discomfort, the pain. And what is more discomforting than something that you don't know? And so you begin fearing the unknown. You begin fearing this idea of, well, I don't want to be in a position where I don't know where I'm going to be or what I'm going to do. But really what it is that you're going to be doing is being happy and being relieved of your suffering and being able to enjoy a good, enjoyable, fruitful time on this planet. So that's something I remember hearing that years ago, about this comfort in being depressed.
Yeah.
And that came to mind when you started
talking,
the but then yes, you can do it the other way, 100%.
You can build yourself 100%. A little mountain of happiness that you climb it all the time, and then eventually, you find it so easy to flip into being appreciative and happy and grateful, and you turn on the switch of just stress-free. Life is good. I'm loving life. I
wonder if that was my that was a contributing factor to me being as knocked about as I was, because I was really at peace until I had this thing come on with that first seizure, because I was really at peace. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, I'd received this help from this person, and then they have that connection to my ex-partner that they do not want to separate under no circumstances at all, because they, you know, don't see that that person did anything bad or immoral or unjust or wrong to provide a reason to separate their friendship from them. And so finding that out then naturally pulls me from this true peak of the mountain for me, because that it may not be a very tall mountain, but it's still tall enough, and there's still a lot of rocks on the edge of the mountain that when you start falling down, you're hitting all the rocks and they're all sharp. They're all the pointy ones. They hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I partly think
that's a good analogy there.
Yeah, it wasn't a very tall mountain, but it had very a very rough come down. Glass. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So,
and it takes time to heal those wounds, and I think
because I'm broken.
I think an interesting.
I just dabbed. You'll see that in 20 seconds. Did you see it? Why is it so delayed? I want to fix that for you.
It's got low normal there it is. It's got normal latency turned on, so hopefully the quality is a bit better.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's another way. One thing I love doing is just playing with perspectives on things, and you know, you've got this idea when you have a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you assume. You have to do that, otherwise you can't function in life. It's just how it has to be. You can make clarifications if you want them, but you have to assume certain things.
Yep.
And so you build a construct of this other person in your mind, and the closer the construct is to the actual person, the more they feel understood when you're having a discussion, which brings a lot of joy. I love being understood. It's the best feeling. Oh my goodness.
Too bad you don't get that with me.
Sometimes.
And
I'm so pleased when it does happen.
When it does. Moving on.
And then there's the relationship, the actual relationship you have with that person, and that relationship you have with a person, I like to think of as a space that you're in.
Yeah.
So when you have a warm, loving, beautiful relationship with someone, it's like when it's really nice, it's got that, for me at least, it has an atmosphere of being around a campfire or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're just filled with warmth, and there's cold wind on your back, but in front of you is just warmth. And you know, you're just there, and you're sharing each other's space, and you're having a great time. Of just, this is nice. And the weird thing is that sort of feeling of being in that place extends back through memory. And so when someone says, actually, we're not at a campfire, we're actually at war, or actually, I haven't been there at that campfire with you for however long. Your memory is suddenly ripped away from you of being at that campfire with them. That whole time is now ripped away, and it turns into something completely different. And
you mean the process of so they sort of make it known that their interactions with you were a lie because they were shallow on their part, you mean?
Or their interactions with you might have been a lie, or they may have had...
Or your perception of that was different to what it actually was, or
both? That maybe maybe they come out and say something as awful as, "No, actually, I didn't love you. I was just trying to go along with things." Or maybe it's as awful as,
Oh, well, that's nice.
you know, maybe it could be something as awful as just,
Yeah.
if they do something to you that shows you that their idea of love is so their idea of love and happiness is just so completely separated from yours.
Yeah.
You're sitting there thinking you're at a campfire, and maybe to them, love and happiness with someone else actually looks like an argument. Some people really do have that.
Yes, yes, they do.
And
yes,
so,
they do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily a betrayal because they thought they loved you. They thought they were happy with you.
Yeah.
And you thought the same, and you said the words, and the words say the same thing. But what they mean to you is something completely separate.
Yeah.
And so when you figure out that meaning is different, your entire memory, you just feel betrayed.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you weren't betrayed. It's really hard to explain that to someone, but you were betrayed in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you had the feeling of betrayal, whether it's that you need to be specific of the wording, and it's that you've experienced the feeling of betrayal, not necessarily that it was, if you pull apart the situation and construct it together in a pie chart or a flow chart or something beautiful that you can construct into Excel spreadsheets, but still, I know what you mean, and yeah, that's a fascinating thing to bring up, is the fact that some people, happiness and love in a relationship is this very strange form of turmoil, and it's not necessarily to say that they're a narcissist or anything. They can still be a relatively normal person. It's just that they need some form of spice in their relationship, and unfortunately for you, the spiciness that they require comes in a form of actually throwing chilies into your eyes, right? Because they like seeing your response and seeing how you interact with them, and that your love for them goes on while they're piffing chilies at your eyes. And for me, that's a one strike and you're out. Like, that's just it, man.
Yeah. When you realize that, that's it. And I had an experience like that, and that was it.
Yeah.
Ooh, Sources says something interesting. Oh, by the way, Dark Viper, I believe that should be in the description, isn't it?
Yes, that I believe is in the description, actually. Thanks for spotting that comment. So it's Aaron Studios, and it should be in the description as to the link to his website. And I love his work. Fox has lasted me many years. 100% swear by Aaron Studios. He does very, very resilient, fluffy animals. So,
when you find out that a moment had less depth and meaning to the person you thought you were sharing it with, is it a betrayal or a disillusionment? I love that. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Well, from the outside,
I love it.
From the outside of you, I guess it would be a disillusionment, wouldn't it?
Dan, can you read that? Can you read that again for me, please? So I can. I love how it's written. I just need you to read it.
Oh, it's nice. When you find out that a moment had less depth and meaning to the person you thought you shared it with, is it betrayal or is it disillusionment? So essentially, the experience I had with my ex, where the depth of meaning was different, let's say.
Yes.
Horribly different.
What?
Am I being disillusioned coming out of that and now realizing what it is?
Well, what I was going to say is, I think that the specifics would possibly be required in that question to be able to provide a real answer. And by that, what I mean is, if the person had made every effort to reassure you that it did have the depth, and they made considerable effort to make it known in a way that they were definitely wanting you to feel that it had depth, then it would be betrayal. But if they have a very strange way of expression, of communication, then I think it's going to feel like betrayal and possibly not be betrayal. And that then comes into question, was the relationship bound for failure due to that miscommunication at the start? And I would say possibly yes, because communication is what makes or breaks plenty of relationships in life, that sometimes they just can't be healed because that communication there's always going to be a miscommunication because they are just stuck in a way. It's not to say that they're not fixable and that they cannot get, not to say that they need fixing either, but I mean, there is a possibility that they do, right? There is a possibility that who we're talking about here may genuinely have a very skewed understanding on how to ask, how to inquire, how to talk, how to express, how to love, how to care, how to anything, right? They may have a very skewed understanding on how to perform all of those different things. And as a result, when it comes to that magnificent question of yours, I think that that would come down to a potential of, is it miscommunication that did it? And if it is miscommunication, it is 100% not betrayal, right? But if it is malice, not miscommunication, then 100% I think you've got full rights to say that immediately classifies it as being betrayal.
That's so tricky.
Have a great rest of your day. See you, my friend. Thank you very much for joining in. What else we got? What else have I missed? Oh, Saber joined. Saber, if you're here, hello. Yes, that is that's. I love that question. So you can ask questions like that any day.
Yes, please.
Yeah. You're officially invited to our next one.
Yes, official invite. Please attend.
Yeah.
If you don't, there will be no cake for you.
Where's the cake?
Oh. It only comes if he attends the whole thing.
Do I get cake?
If you could.
Oh, no, I probably shouldn't have any because of the keto thing. Anyway, moving on. Moving on.
I kind of want to pick apart something that you said there.
That I said or that he said?
I think it's really interesting.
He, she.
Something that you
sources.
said. You.
Yes,
you.
Me.
Is it like this? You.
No, other way.
There we go.
Oh, that was so good. I even did the flinch in perfect timing. You'll see that in 20 seconds.
Now I made him look. About that long.
All right, I made him look. You keep watching. You ready? Do it.
Yeah. Good.
Did it do it?
There's a little flinch. No, the you made a good point. But I sort of want to pick it apart and just destroy it a little bit for you.
Yeah, all right.
So you said something along the lines of so
yeah,
if the person who has let's say miscommunicated their experience with you, and that's not a betrayal if they didn't do it on purpose, if there was no malice.
Yeah.
Right? There's disillusionment and it will feel like betrayal, but there's no actual betrayal happening. I think that's what you're saying.
No, I said that if they've done it if they've done it intentionally to give you the perception of
then it is
something,
definitely betrayal.
That is definitely betrayal, right? Because they've made they've gone to effort to give a perception of something that is actually not. And that, I think, is that definition right there instantly counts it as betrayal, because it is a perception or a belief that turns out not to actually be. And whether that's through malice or through another word that you wish to describe it as, I just refer to that basic thing, which is that. So is that what you were wanting to sort of pick apart, or was it another part of that?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, is that clarified now, or is that?
So yeah, if they don't have the intention to do anything bad, if they were honestly just miscommunicating, like
because they just different, but they different English. Different English.
Yes, their dialect of English comes from a different place. Yes. Yeah. Oh, man, that could be a topic in and of itself. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
So
I have a Cranbourne dialect. I'll have you all know. It's where I grew up. We call it Cranbourne around here. Cranbourne.
So in that situation, they would not have betrayed you, but it would have been a disillusionment on your behalf, and it would have felt like betrayal to you, but it wasn't actually betrayal. Yes. So we can separate that. Yep. Awesome.
100%.
What if they only have good intentions always, because they're just a lovely person at heart, let's say, but they don't understand how doing something changes their relationship with you. So there's no malice, there's no intent to hurt, and they do something that changes their relationship with you in a way that you can't accept, let's say, or that you that would hurt you if you were to stay in contact with them. If you express to them that it would be a betrayal to do that, and they just can't understand why, so they continue to do it even though they have no bad intention. They're not seeking to betray you. Should they just take your word for it?
Yes.
That thing is betrayal?
Yes.
And like I said,
100%.
They would remove their own autonomy from the picture.
Yes, they would need to, because what you're saying is, it's sort of like, what you're saying is, whatever it is you're doing, and whatever reason you're doing it, which I know the reason to be good intent, the item that you are crafting here is actually, it's a reactive chemical, and that reactive chemical, when it enters my system, provokes a chemical reaction, and that chemical reaction is an explosion, whether you like it or not. So whatever you're doing when it comes to that, it needs to stop, because it is causing an explosion, which, as is understandable and as is a natural thing to want, you don't want that explosion, because explosions are generally bad, unless it's the explosions where you have on a t-shirt that says "cool guys don't look at explosions," and then you generally arms crossed looking into the distance as there's an explosion behind you, like full on James Bond style. But that is what firstly, I would like to say I personally feel attacked. Secondly, you know what I'm referring to. But it's good though, because I feel very strongly on that, and I can't see anyone ever, no matter what argument they give me, I can't see me needing to respond to their argument with anything other than what I just said, because that's such a basic thing. It's like, I don't need to come up with a new reply for you every time unless you actually raise a point which has validity. And the points don't have validity on the other side, because it's like, you guys need to understand that there's a language here. There's a form of communication. And no matter what, the words are still going to, when they get interpreted in the brain, or the actions being interpreted in the brain, you don't have a say in the chemical reactions that are going to occur in your mind if you don't have the ability to change that, which for the most part we don't, right? Because there is a chance that that you are so greatly in need of their appreciation of your basic simple need and request of don't do this. And what have they done? They've gone against that and they've said, well, I know that you've told me that if I do this you will die, but I can't not do this because if I don't do this then I'm worried you'll die, so I'll just do it anyway even though you've told me that if I do it you'll die. And it's like, that is so flawed. That is so inherently flawed, because I've told you expressly, if you do this, I will die, right? That's just, I'm just making this up to be bigger than it, you know, than it really is, right? To set a tone.
It really sort of drives it home, and the other thing it does is really bring out also some of the. It's not necessarily I'm saying I've got problems with what you're saying, right? I want to make that clear as well. I'm just sort of poking at it. And tell me to stop at any point if it's like, hey, Daniel, you've gone too far.
Yes.
But let's say, oh my God, I think that's exactly what I was going to say. Sources. As a very sensitive person, how can you avoid becoming controlling? Your vulnerability requirement wrapping into dominance over the person who you're asking to protect you.
Warping into dominance.
Warping.
Yeah.
Yes, warping.
As a very sensitive person, how can you avoid becoming controlling? As a very sensitive person... As a very sensitive person, how can you avoid becoming controlling? I will need to read this 50 times. As a very sensitive person. Let me put it to you this way. You put it to me your way. And then if it's wrong, sources will clarify.
Yeah, he can tell me if I've got it mixed up.
He, she, sorry.
Sure exactly. They.
I
shan't assume one's gender.
Don't do it.
They are just the source.
They are just source, okay? Source is a non-gendered item. Why are you doing this to my source, man?
Oh, dear. Your source is now masculine.
Masculine source? No. Oh, no. Don't go. No, topic diversion. Go back, go back, go back, go back.
Go back, rewind. Undo. So, as a very sensitive person, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're very sensitive and you're flat broke right now. And I'm not saying you would do this, but just as an example, I have loads of money.
Yeah.
If I don't give you some of that money, because I got loads to spare, but I'm just chucking it all in the stock market, buying a house, and eating rock lobster for dinner every day.
Yeah.
And I'm not sharing that with you at all, even though I have oodles to spare and my bank account's still piling up. And you tell me that if I don't give you money, the stress will kill you because you're so stressed about your finances. And it's bringing you to the point of whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, I should probably give you some money.
Oh,
That's
man.
being a bit of a jerk.
Oh, man.
But, do I have to? Is it a betrayal of you if I don't?
Oh, man. What a shit question. That is a great question. That is a shit question. What a shit question. What an excellent question.
Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Like, you're sensitive about these things, yeah. But at what point do you say, no, you don't get to dictate what they do just because you're sensitive about it? I think you should be able to do that to some extent.
What a shit question.
But where is the line? Because there's definitely a line somewhere. But where is it?
I love this question.
Yeah.
I actually want to plow my face through a wall to be honest. That's an excellent question. That sucks. Okay. Oh, fuck. Yes, because what we're talking about here is it this question of jealousy, right? Is it a question of the perception of betrayal, when it's like, you know, there could have been additional demonstrated care, there could have been, you know, even putting the other person in a situation where they are constantly having to acknowledge how much money you have. You know, you come to their house, if they've got one, right, and you pick them up in your Maserati, and then
That's your only car.
you take them somewhere, right, and then you say, oh, I'll just get you to hop into the petrol station and fill up my car while I just clean the windows, right? And it's just like, you just picked up a homeless person, right? And now you know, basically that's sort of how it's going to feel for them. Even if they don't do that, they're just taking them in that ride may have that feeling of, I am so depressed over the fact that this person has all of this and I don't, that I can just imagine that they would do this dickish thing of that caliber. And that's then a question of self-sabotage, because then your brain starts latching onto those ideas, and then you may vocalize it. And you go, I guess you want me to fill up your car with petrol, right? And you'll say something like that, which is so uncalled for. And it's exactly, and it's self-sabotage, right? Which stems from that insecurity. That's a good word, and I should have mentioned that in that video. That releases eventually, but maybe I have to unrelease it, fix it up. But anyway, what I was going to say is that is such a magnificently awful question, because it's so hard, because I so understand it so well, because I think when, at least because, Daniel, because you've grabbed the question, you've worked it into this story, and the story that you've mentioned is something that I think both you and I relate to, because you grew up in housing commission. I grew up, right, around housing commission homes in the slums of Cranbourne. We were lucky to have a mortgage though, right? So we actually did quite well in that respect, even though we were struggling to get by. We struggled because we needed to have a mortgage so that we would own the house, right? That was just, we had that luxury as a family, such is life. But we were still poor, right? We certainly were not affluent by any stretch of the imagination. And then you look at those interactions with people that you have, someone who's come from this poverty-stricken background, this poverty-stricken upbringing, which, as I say, for me wasn't as bad as it was for you, I imagine. And, you know, then there's also perception that comes into play as well, because you may have perceived yourself to have been in an enjoyable, safe, good place, and you don't notice that as a thing, whereas someone else may.
Yeah.
You know?
When I was at your place, I was always more like, wow, you have this. It was never a, wow, I wish I had this.
It was never.
It was a different, it wasn't a jealous sort of thing. I didn't feel like I had the right or to claim that in my life. I hadn't worked for that.
Yes.
So I was just appreciative of the fact that you had it. And I was happy about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
whereas
so that's sort of how I saw it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas then I see rich kids who didn't work for it, who have this weird perception about the world, and when you talk to them, you just feel like, damn.
Yeah.
Guess I'm poor then.
Yeah.
But I'd like to reframe it just once more before we put this to bed, I guess.
Yeah, because I haven't answered
if you'll
it.
let me.
I haven't answered it, and I don't know if either of us have. How do we answer that?
I want to
How
reframe it
can you
once more
avoid
to see if we
becoming
can.
controlling? How can you avoid... Oh, no, I can answer that. I can answer that.
I can't.
Okay, would you like me to answer it, or would you prefer to do your rephrasing?
Or I want to just give one more analogy because it's something I actually struggled with, and I am
Okay.
curious to see what you think of this
Yeah.
as well, and it sort
Yeah.
of ties in. So some people have a bit of separation anxiety,
Yeah.
right? And I've met many people with different levels of this, and it can come out in different ways. But one interesting thing is when I am personally not feeling too great, if I'm sad or I'm just going through a little bit depressive phase at the moment, I will want to withdraw a bit, and I will gain energy from being away.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is I end up hurting the other person because they feel like I'm separating from them, and they're very sensitive to that. And so, or let's say, I might want to go to a friend's house and I don't invite them. I actually don't want them to come. I just want to spend time with my friend one on one. You know, I don't want it there to be a group of people. I just want to have a bit more of a intimate time.
Yeah.
And then they'll feel very sensitive about that. And it's like, at what point do you say that person's not allowed to turn around and say, you should ask me to come? You're making me feel like I'm being left out.
Yes. Yes.
You're making me feel like I'm left out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like,
All
what's
right.
my intention?
Look, I'm going to slap into the answer because I understand exactly what you're saying there. And I think both those scenarios, are really encapsulating of Source's question. And thank you, Source, for identifying me as a sensitive person, because I absolutely am, and it's terrible, and I'm working on it. That's something that... firstly, I just want to pretense, Sources, that I've identified myself as being a very sensitive person. I've had my psychologist identify me as a very sensitive person, and coupling that with the autism diagnoses, I could never be an asshole to people. It was really hard for me to be a genuine arsehole to people. And I actually had to, for my own survival, learn to be a fuckhead. I had to learn how to be an actual fuckhead. Otherwise, I would be taken advantage of. Otherwise, I would receive the short straw because I was not in a position where I could dominate the situation and take control of it, take the reins of it. I would just be on the recipient end and be like, well, I don't want to interfere, and I don't want to be asking for too much. I don't want to be trying to sway other people's decision here, but really in the end of the day, it's not even about that, right? Because anyone else in their situation would be that fuckhead, but it's actually not even being a fuckhead. It's just compared to what you're normally like in your sensitive state, you feel that that's the embodiment of being a fuckhead, but you're actually not. And now this video is guaranteed never to be demonetized, permanently, and such is life. But answering your question. So the way that I learned to deal with that was through seeing my psychologist. And I remember saying, this is so unbearably overpowering, this feeling, this sensation of needing this, right? Needing this thing, whatever that thing may be. And that was even in a relationship sense. I even had that in my last relationship with every now and then jealousy could come into the picture or something like that. And it was so unprovoked. I wasn't about jealousy. I don't like jealousy. You know, I don't like other people being jealous of me because I want to share out everything that I've got, you know, full on communist level stuff. You know, just the way that it is.
You hippie.
Oh man, you're a hippie. You're a communist hippie. But
get a haircut.
Yeah,
get a fur cut.
Oh no! Oh, fuck off.
You're looking a bit shaggy there, buddy.
But what I was gonna say is that when you're experiencing that moment and you become aware of what's happening, and I made a video on this that I believe is online at the moment, which is dealing with unwanted or uncontrollable thoughts or feelings. And it falls into that category because if you can see the cognition, right, or you can see the dialogue that's happening inside your mind that is pushing you into the state where you are, you know, becoming you're sort of warping it into dominance over the other person, as you said. If you take that moment to breathe, to do mindfulness really quickly, 3 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 3 things you can see, right? And you reconnect with the world, and then you ask that question, hey, in this moment that I am feeling that I need to do X, Y, or Z, that I need to speak up about this, that I need to request that I need to dominate the situation, is this move into dominance helpful? And then you find as many answers for yes and as many answers for no, right? Because it could be that, well, firstly, you know, in the scenario that was mentioned before about a friend that has too much money, putting the big boots on and stomping around and making a fuss about it may not be helpful, because if we think about it, they're going to see us kicking up a stink about the fact that they're clearly that I'm clearly jealous, and they clearly have something that I'm jealous of, and that may have them put into a situation where they say, leave my house, get out, I don't want you here, right? If this is the way you're going to behave, right, I worked hard for this, you don't work, fuck off, right? And they say that, and then you reasonably expect that to be what would happen if you were to answer the question, is this helpful? The answer would be no, and that's why I feel it would be a no. Would it be helpful? Yes. Well, I suppose your mind could think, well, if I ask for it, surely they'll give it to me. And it's like, but you don't know, and you can't control them. And that's the next thing. You cannot control others, but you can control yourself. And so again, it comes into this question of, is this helpful? Because I don't have control over them. And the answer is no, it's not helpful. I don't have control over them. And so everything sort of orients around that question of, is this helpful? And as long as that dialogue is being kept inside your mind, you may feel that awareness helps you to just be even more painfully aware and even remove yourself from the situation if it's just inherent that you being around them brings you that feeling. Because that's the other thing too. If that is the case, then there is a chance that it's just not working, man. You know, you can't say, I'm really pissed off, man, because I'm meant to feel comfortable in this prison that I'm in. But I actually don't like this prison because it's cold. They don't allow us to wear socks or shoes. So we're walking on the cold tiles all the time. They don't give us a bed and we have to sleep on the concrete. And I just want to be able to be comfortable here and enjoy all of my newfound friends that bully me and push me into the walls all the time. And I can't enjoy it. Damn. Well, it may be that the environment that you're in, the situation that you're in, is guaranteed to evoke that response. And so that's another thing to keep in mind as well. start off with reconnecting with the world. Is this helpful? Is this useful? Is this feeling helpful? Is this thought helpful? And then work out, well, if it isn't, what can I do about it? What you can do is you can accept it. And if acceptance isn't getting you anywhere, no matter how much you're accepting it and you're working on that, you need to work on, well, why is this happening? And is it the environment? Is it what they're saying? Is it how they behave around you? Is that just inherently part of who they are, and it's that there's something that they're not aware that they're doing? Or is it something that they do because they like to feel loud and proud of what they've got? This is in that example from before. So that then, there's a few facets here that need to be acknowledged. But if you follow things in that order, you may find that helps. I hope that was helpful.
Very good.
End dialogue. That was a monologue. That was a monologue. Oh man.
It was also very different to how I would answer the question as well. And
but you're an idiot though.
Yeah, I'm much more straightforward. I do actually have the core of my yes, thank you for that answer. Actually, it's the core of my being is more sensitive, and I've learnt through many techniques to at least not appear as sensitive at first.
Yeah.
And so for me, to answer the question of how do you avoid becoming controlling of other people?
Yeah.
Is similar with the whole, you don't have control over other people. And what I like to do is ask myself, well, first I try to see it from their perspective. I want to understand them first before I even approach what's making me feel sensitive. That's not a good word.
Yeah.
Approach what's hitting me. What that attack is, or whatever pressure I'm feeling from them.
Yeah, the trigger.
The trigger.
Yeah.
I want to understand where they're coming from to begin with, and then once I understand where they're coming from, obviously if they're malicious, then see you later. I have no time in my life for malicious people, at least not anymore.
Yeah.
But if it's not coming from a place of being malicious, I will try my very best to be understanding of where they come from and assertive about what it is I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
Without asking anything of them. So instead of saying, let's say, could you please not make me feel so excluded and actually invite me somewhere? I would say something like, I would ask them first, did you enjoy your time with the other person? Yes. Okay,
but
cool.
that question could come from self-sabotage though, because you could start asking that question and your tone of voice is instantly filled with self-sabotage because so how do you enjoy your time with all your friends? And then it's just here we go. I know exactly what you're saying. And it's just like, no, I didn't mean to say it that way. It just came out.
Yeah. What I call that is the subconscious.
Yeah.
The ugly part of that.
Yeah.
When that comes out.
Yes.
And so that's not what I want to come out. I would say it with genuine curiosity. I would literally be curious if they had fun. What did you do? All that sort of thing. So for just to get the ball rolling in that sort of situation. And then I would be sort of put my foot forward and say, hey, do you reckon next time I could come along?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to get out of it.
Yes.
And I'm just putting it out there, putting it forward, being assertive. I'm not being aggressive about it. So I'm not accusing them of anything.
Yes.
And as you said with the tone, you got to make sure your tone is proper.
Oh,
and this is how I just avoid trying to control people, because
yeah,
as soon as
you have to, at this point, you have to be dissociated from the feeling of guilt or the feeling of being betrayed or that sensitivity, because if you're not, this dialogue that you're referring to is not going to work at all, because you're just going to be so triggered in that moment. And that's why the reason I gave my response, because your response is perfect, because your response addresses the fixing of the thing, right? The understanding and then the fixing of the thing, or at least the attempt of. But in my case, the way that I answered that question was addressing that genuine, absolute, gut-wrenching sensitivity. Like, you are so sensitive that you cannot operate as a human being, which is me. I don't deny it because I lived it. And I had my psychologist say, you need to become more of a fuckhead. And it's like, okay, well then I guess I'll learn how to be a fuckhead then, right? You know, he didn't use those words, but
you can achieve it.
Yeah.
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 For me, the way I achieve it is by, obviously I don't throw those feelings away. I understand that they're there. That's why I spend the effort to meditate on where the other person's coming from first.
Yeah.
Is because as soon as you actually grasp an understanding, and you have to make sure that you're generous about it, because if you can have a genuine, generous understanding of where they're coming from, and you go, okay, well, they had no malicious intent, they do care about you, and maybe they just wanted this, and you're really, you understand that wholly. It's really hard to keep hold of both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
Or at least for me, that works really well. Because I don't see how you can hold, let's say, anger as a thing, or anger. How can you hold anger in your hands while you truly understand and love this person? And why they did what they did and all of that. It's like, can you?
I think the answer is yes, and I think the reason why it's a yes is because I've seen people do things on that level that make no sense, and it's messed up, and
that you don't understand.
Well, yeah, whether
because
it's that you don't understand.
You see it, you say that doesn't make sense. It means you literally don't understand. So you haven't been able to do this side.
Sorry, I should say that it shouldn't make sense. It's not so much that it doesn't make sense. It's more that it's sort of like how look at what happened in my family, right? I say and describe that as that doesn't make sense, and it does make sense. They're selfish, right? It makes sense because for me it is not in line with what I know to be moral. It's not in line with what I know to be part of my moral compass. And as a result, I use the English words, that doesn't make sense, for ease of conversation purposes, to state that is very vexing, right? Considering how that should not be. It should not be that way. But there is a question for you that's coming up, apparently.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that one.
I'm terrified.
But I still am not convinced that you can truly love and understand someone and their actions if you truly understand where they're coming from. Because and this might just come from a naivete, that I believe most people to be genuinely good. Or in fact, all people except for the psychopaths, whatever.
And narcissists.
No, even them. They come from a good place, generally speaking.
Well, except for the whole learned behavior of narcissism thing.
Yeah. But, there's a different kettle of fish. But, like, if you, let's say, for example, one of the people in your family is going through something, and it's causing them to behave in a way towards you. It doesn't make any of that right. But when I fully understand and my initial reaction when you first told me was protect. I want to protect you. I'm furious at these people. How could they be this way?
Yeah.
And then I come back down a bit. I try to understand the people. It's not working out for me. I communicate with them, and then it clicks, and it makes so much sense. And instead of anger, it forms into more of a... That's so sad. That is so sad. And that's literally how it moved for me.
Yes.
It went straight from like absolute fury down to this irritation of how could that happen? And then it came down once and this all rose as my understanding of the situation and them grew.
Yeah.
Then they sort of did like, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I do that for just about everything that pisses me off.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand what pisses you off, otherwise you'll just be filled with rage all the time, and that's not constructive. Because then you sit there and go, with this rage that I'm feeling, is this helpful? And the answer is generally, well, no, it's not really going to get you very far. It's going to make you uptight. It's going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to make you lose hair, and lose sleep.
Or make them grey.
Or makes them grey in your case, lucky man, because in my case I don't have that privilege because I have no hair to turn grey, except for my eyebrows and beard whenever there is one, and it's certainly not to your level now, isn't it? Not that you've got it at the moment. I know, it must be good because it's this question is going to be in 800 words or less. This is an essay, and I'm certainly quite nervous for it. It should be good. We're just so you know, sources, your questions so far have been wonderful. They have been wonderful questions because they have really made us use our brainicus. All right, here we go.
Yes.
What did he say?
To what degree do you perceive others who navigate life by always playing to their audience as having deficient personal integrity?
Oh.
Hmm. I think that it requires tremendous personal integrity to always understand your audience and be open, honest, and vulnerable at the same time. I think it takes enormous personal integrity because, let's say, there was a thing that happened not long ago.
Are we assuming this is good intent?
Well, he might correct me, but I believe what he means when he says playing to their audience as like pandering to the other person.
Okay.
As like how I was saying before, where I was talking about I always start by trying to understand the other. That's like my first point. And so he may see that, or they may see that as me just trying to work the other person, maybe, or bringing myself lower or higher to match them, sort of thing. Maybe that's what he means, but generally speaking, I don't think I changed too much on the way of the way that I say things, the way I do things, and how I express myself doesn't actually change too much between person to person. What does change is the way I show my understanding of them. But I still always, and this is a bit strident of me, I guess, because I'm always putting my foot forward, and I'm always, so assertive about this is my belief, and this is what I think. And sometimes it steps on toes, and sometimes I know it's going to. All I can do is show the other person that I understand where they're coming from, but this is where I'm at. I see where you are, and I'm over here. Sometimes it turns into that. As an example, there's something that happened to someone else. They had a partner who was German. I told you about this. This German man, boy, whatever.
Man-child.
Man-child, yeah, that's beautiful, perfect.
Welcome.
They tried to tell this other person that they owed them money because the German person purchased a thing. German person has that in their possession. The agreement was that both people would pay for it equally and then share it. And there was a big disagreement, massive disagreement, went on for way too long. And it was just, the German person was like, but there was an agreement. We had an agreement, And I spent about an hour formulating how I'd show him that I understood where he was coming from. And then I had a piece on, and he was really appreciative of that, of course, which is important because then he can see that I see him. And then I moved into, but part of the verbal contract that you guys had, if you want to see it like a contract, is that you would share it. There would be that shared thing. And so you've broken the contract by making that impossible. And so now neither party has a piece of it. You still have it, you can sell it and get back more than half the money. In fact, if you've used it, some people might buy it for more, depending. And so, yeah. That didn't end up working out too well, but I still it's because I held my integrity that it didn't work out well. I did mean the same social behavior of mirroring.
Yeah, so I actually would like to answer your question, my saucy friend, and that is, so this is actually what I do, because I read your question while Daniel was answering it, and I do understand the question well, which is that, at least you'll correct me if I don't now that I've said that, but however, I meant those who find the meaning of their lives in getting results from others. Oh, okay. Those who find the meaning of their lives in getting results from others. I think that last part is sort of inherent in communication, in relationships, in life, is that we'll have other people who are not us and we interact with them because they're not us. And so they'll naturally give us things that are not our things to give, but are their things to give, whether it's thoughts or feelings or affection or love or trust. And so you're always playing on that to some level, but you're not thinking about it. You're just appreciative of it for the most part. And so that's sort of inherent in any communication or any contract of relationship that you have with anyone. But with your original question of to what degree do you perceive others who navigate life by always playing to their audience as having a deficient personal integrity. So I mirror on a very regular basis because I love to connect with people, and that connection is very important in having any form of influence because it gives them a sense of comfort because you and them are on the same page. And then you could argue, well, you've just said that you're trying to manipulate them into being comfortable. And you would 100% be correct. I am making a consecutive decision, making considerable effort in being relatable, in using mirroring tactics, but not in a malicious way, but in a way that, because I would never want them to to lose out on anything. I don't want anyone else to lose out on anything unless, you know, we're talking that it's something that they did not even deserve to begin with. Like, for example, you know, they stole the Declaration of Independence, you know, like that's, you know, that documentary is really really important for everyone to watch, because it is a documentary and not a movie. Anyway, I digress. That, and I just love Nicolas Cage. His face belongs on every meme. It is so good. He is Mr. Meme. But anyway,
I would have to like inject a question.
Sure.
To that last part.
You may interject.
How? I don't understand, and please help me here. How do you find meaning in your life without others?
Yeah, and that's why
Is that
I
even
answered.
Possible?
But that's why I answered with how I answered it at the start anyway, though. I think, because I sort of said that, you know, this is like, that is already part of our interactions with others, so it's sort of like that's a given. You know, and we can debate that, and that's separate, but I don't think it's really worth it, because I think there's not much merit doing that, because for the most normal people, most neurotypical and non-neurotypical, neuroatypical people,
we could have a discussion about the difference of manipulation and positive and negative manipulation. Let's say.
and that's where I was getting at.
And being destructive.
Yeah. That's where I was getting at with my answer, that, you know, I was going to sort of end it on that note, which is that while I am using mirroring tactics, while I am in a position where I have learned to become acutely aware of the social interaction that I'm having with other people, because that's a learned behavior for me because of the autism spectrum disorder. I had no real ability to talk to people. I was just an actual social lemon, a zesty social lemon. And it was through learning some of these psychological constructs of our communication that came into play of, well, I can actually, you know, all I'm doing is actually just being aware of what good conversationalists are. And social butterflies, I'm just sort of emulating them, but I emulate them manually, unlike them who they do it automatically. It's just part of their being, part of their nature. I asked about this because to me it is tied to the hardships of betrayal and disillusionment that we experience. The idea that humans.
Go on a bit longer.
Oh, this is going to go.
Go to the toilet. I'll be back in a second.
Does that mean I'm meant to play guitar? Oh, he's not even back to answer. Well, fuck. I ask about this because to me it is tied to the hardships of betrayal and disillusionment that we experience. The idea that humans have integrity of character, because that assumption or perception precedes the projection of there being a promise made by you to you by another's conduct or treatment of you. Whew. Damn, man, you word these like a fucking scholar. Because that assumption or perception precedes the projection of there being a promise made to you by another's conduct or treatment of you. So you saucy beast, if you could also find a way to simplify that at all, I would be so grateful of that. I love it, and I'm sure I understand where it is that you're coming from, but it's such a well-pointed question that it sort of needs to be eased up a little bit for me to understand it more from a context standpoint. And so I'm feeling a little bit unintelligent reading it, interestingly. I ask about this because to me it is tied to the hardships of betrayal and disillusionment. The idea that humans have integrity of character because that assumption or perception precedes rejection. There needs to be the disappointment. Something forsaken. I feel that is a promise you projected upon your partner. Whew. We should be getting the saucy beast to host these bloody chats.
My goodness.
That's great.
It is definitely saucy.
Oh, that is saucy. That is saucy.
The problem is I can take it in so many different directions. Like,
yeah, and that's what my issue is that it's really well pointed, but it needs a nice little specific put in there that sort of encapsulates, because I think I think I may understand what is being referred to here if this is true, which is that the question of that mirroring or that playing of the audience comes to is it out of malintent or is it out of trying to create a very comfortable environment for them to be able to communicate back to you, because mirroring will allow for that, because then they feel heard, they feel connected with, and now everything, all of their anxiety of communicating with you has been lifted because they feel, well, this person actually gets me because they're using my language, they're using my version of English, they're saying the words that I say and the terms that I use and the sayings that I refer to, which
makes them feel safe. But in trying to keep all this together in one sort of package of something that we can at least keep coherent in our minds.
Sauce, you're an arsehole. That little comment at the end. I love it. It's so good.
So if you're doing that, so you're mirroring, you're trying to make it comfortable for them. Is that a falsehood of pretending to be someone, think that you're not sort of like an actor on a stage?
And the answer is yes, technically.
And the answer is yes. And I would say
done. That's it.
No, there's more.
No, I don't believe it. We're done. We're fucking done. All right. Oh my god.
So I think he's trying to get to also like that can, you could take that a bit too far and then actually it might tie in with other things like social constructs, let's call them, like boyfriend and girlfriend and other things like that, and you do this sort of mirroring thing, and it's also sort of ties into masking as well, I guess.
I've got one of those.
I think everyone does masking to different levels, and you take it somewhere that never mind.
Moving on.
Moving swiftly on.
Yes, for legal reasons.
So yeah, you would then let them down, I guess. When they assumed that you were something that you weren't, if they thought you were better.
Oh, if you dropped the act, if there was no consistency, and all of a sudden they start piecing it together and they go, man, you're actually just playing me. And then I think it then comes down into a point where you have to be prepared for that to happen, if that ever is possible to happen, which I believe that it really is, in which case then you need to go, look, it's not about that, man, I understand you and I get you, and I'm just knackered, right? Or I'm just, completely out of it, at the moment, sort of thing. But even then, that could still say that, well, so what, you're just too tired to pretend that you're one of my people, right? And so I think depends on why that's an issue for them anyway, because it could be that really is a massive source of distrust for them, or it could just be oh man, that's a really funny way of putting it, right? And they don't really think that much of it. They just see it as, oh, well, like that's just a different part of the phrase book for this person, which they should really see that anyway for most people. But I'm just assuming.
I sort of see this as like, so when you're like trying to make a new friend, let's say,
yes,
it's sort of like trying to go on dates, or
yes,
trying to impress your grandparents. You sort of put on this act. You're trying to impress them. That's what you're doing. You're trying to make them comfortable. You're trying to be something that you think they would appreciate more.
Yeah.
To sort of, as you say, make the communication smoother. And I think what most people do naturally is they gradually lower that mask and reveal their default.
I could do that.
And they do it slowly over time, and I think that is...
I could do that.
I think that's completely normal. I think you're right in the way of if you take that too far, you may be opening yourself up to lacking integrity, as you pretend to be something that you're not. But I think as long as your mask or your actor persona or whatever you're doing there, as long as that is actually a part of yourself and you're just like caricaturizing some of yourself, I don't think it's that bad. I think that's actually needed in order for us to interact nicely.
So our favorite saucy friend, does that answer your question? That's what I would love to know. Have we
I hope
collectively answered your question or provided insight that you have felt, yes, that speaks to the question that I have presented? Has this spoken to that question? I really, really want to know. Desperately want to know. Very, very curious.
Tell me now. You're making me uncomfortable.
I know. Yes. It's just fucking
what we're
true.
just talking about, insecurities and control.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's go to the insecurity of your miscommunication insecurity, Oh no, of course not. Oh shit.
Oh no, we didn't answer the question.
And you know what? I don't think at this rate I can't actually see any other interpretations of that question. So I do apologize, my friend. We would need some sort of sort of scenario. If you could picture for us, if you could paint for us, if you could paint for us a scenario that says, well, if this person is doing this or behaving in that way and these other people are doing that and behaving in that way, what is X, Y, or Z? Give us a bit of a picture. Give us a scenario of people, of persons, a group of people, if it may be that, and see if you can paint us as vibrant of a picture as you can. And then we'll be able to grab that and then go, all right, we can actually answer that and connect with that, and all is good.
Because one thing I really like to do is when I'm trying to analyze if something is right, wrong, is this insecurity, is this integrity, is this an integrity issue, is I like to zoom in as much as possible on different parts of the picture, let's say, and see where those things are.
To understand where Nikku was coming from and how he looked at things. Oh, okay, sorry. Now I'm understanding what your comments were. Oh no, of course not. How can it be answered? As in, that's a sort of rhetoric question. And then it was more just sort of getting you to pick apart your philosophy of communication. I understand that. So that was actually just a real poke, which is like solid. Just woke up and got a coffee and saw you were streaming. Oh, hello, Limo. Well, Limo, funny you should mention that, because I desperately want a coffee at the moment, and I really need one. And if I could take you all with me... Daniel, there has to be a way to connect my telephone to this and stream bring you guys. I just pick up my telephone. The cable's long enough. I do have a BNC cable connected to this camera. I could do it.
We can do something next time that would make that easy to do.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that next time because that'd be funny. Like, I'll take you guys for a little coffee date. Bring my little pogo stick along with the camera and be like, "Hello, come on."
I guess I could sort of ramble about my perspective on communication more, but I think
while I made a coffee.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Yeah, make yourself a coffee. I've gone to the toilet 2 times already.
This is true. This is very true. All right. Well, in that case, I'm gonna go make a coffee. Because I really need a coffee.
It's been 2 hours.
Well, it's been 2 hours. Do we make this a 3-hour stream, Daniel?
I think we just keep going until we've had enough.
Okay, because I really would love... You've got no idea how much I would love a coffee right now.
Go make a coffee.
I just really want a coffee.
Do it.
You know what I mean?
Coffee.
Anyway.
I can't drink coffee at this time. I'll never fall asleep.
Yeah, nah. I just need coffee. All right, I'll be back in a jiffy. Ooh. Oh no! It pulled my little ear pod out.
Oh dear.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. All right. I say it pulled like my fox isn't it. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. Oh, he's so happy. He's a floppy boy.
Assume the gender.
Oh, look at how floppy he is. Oh, he's a floppy boy. Oh, you're just so floppy. Mwah. He's a good boy.
In 20 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'll see. You'll have a delayed floppy boy experience. I'm gonna put floppy boy here. And I'll be back in a moment.
A moment.
One moment, please.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sources, king of sources. There's so many different themes here. Actually, let me zoom in on that so I can actually see your text without squinting. Ah, yes, there we go. I sort of see everyone is just trying to do their best to connect with the people around them. Some people don't know that that's what they're doing yet. And some people really struggle with communication and all of that sort of thing. So we all grapple and try our hardest to find happiness, find connection and all that. And I would never presume a lack of integrity until I see it. And so if someone pandered to me, I guess, or how did you put it? Playing to the audience, if someone was only talking to me, then as long as they kept it straight, I would never know that there's a lack of personal integrity. So I would never see it. Maybe they do have it if they're talking to me, and then if they're talking to me and they say, hey, I actually really hate cats, and they talk to someone else and say, oh, I love cats, they're beautiful. That's gross. That's definitely gross. I hate that. Always bring yourself forward. But something that I do, especially like with topics that are really sensitive, like religion, let's say, I would, at first when I didn't know the person, I would say, oh yeah, I was sort of brought up Pentecostal. And then as I got more comfortable with the person, I would let them know that, hey, I was brought up Pentecostal, but I ended up no longer having any faith. And if I knew the person better, and then they just get to see more of me as time went on. So I haven't actually changed the story. I'm just adding extra. Find the meaning of their lives, getting results from others. I think the meaning however, I think the meaning I meant those who find the meaning of their lives in getting results from others. Getting results from others. That's a dark thing. Finding the meaning of your finding meaning in your life through other people, I think, is what we all do, as we said before. But reading a bit closer into it, the meaning, getting meaning by the results you get from other people, like you're just trying to manipulate them into getting the results that you're after, that can be a bit trickier. Because in some sense, we're all doing that. But if you're staying true to yourself, and you do have that integrity going on, you're not just trying to get results from others. You're being vulnerable, and you're working hard at doing your best. And it's when you do those two things, and then you get love and appreciation for your hard work, and for your honesty, and for who you are. That is, I don't know about you, but that's at least where I find a lot of the meaning in my life. I think that's where a lot of people find the meaning in their lives in general, is when the work they do is appreciated, and them as people are appreciated as well, and truly seen as well.
You're talking about the meaning of life?
Well, that's what they said.
Oh, God.
Who finds the meaning of their lives in getting results from others? I'm just directly answering each question, picking it apart a bit more deeply.
For anyone who is watching, I will be putting Fox back on. So the coffee machine is currently heating up, and I will be making a coffee in a moment and then drinking it. And then once I'm done drinking it, put the fluffy rat back on. But for now, I'm waiting for my coffee machine to heat up, and there is a gorgeous fluffy rat, and so I'm picking him up, giving him kisses.
Lovely.
Yeah. That's about it. Oh, yeah.
That's about it.
Where do you think you obtained your ethos? I think I know that question quite well. Yeah, so you know what an ethos is, yeah? It's like a mantra. It's like a... Yeah. It's I'd be curious if you could read out what the correct description is of an ethos. So I believe it's like an approach of life.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So, sorry, approach of what?
Like an approach to life, an approach to like everything. It's like a general mantra, like an all-encompassing rule, for life, I think.
Okay.
Am I right or am I wrong?
I will read it out in a second. I think personally the word is used in very different places when I see it used, so I always have to recheck the definition because it's used so differently all the time.
Yeah.
The definition I've got here is a Greek word meaning character that is used to describe the guiding beliefs or ideals that characterize a community, nation, or ideology. So maybe where do I get my way of thinking or my ideology or what guides me? The stuff behind that actually guides me forwards. Where do I get that?
Yeah.
and obviously that's what I just described, because I'm just giving my, I'm giving basically all of that out.
Yeah,
open.
and now what we're doing is we're saying, well, now you have to tell us where
does
it
that
came
come
from. Where does it come from?
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, are you all in for a shock. I'm going to go make this coffee. Enjoy.
So where I get the ideas that, well, it's actually kind of hard for me to say, because I've been thinking about these sort of questions actually since I was, the ideology which you just described 5 minutes ago. Ooh, was that the one about getting meaning out of life? Because I've been sort of thinking about these things since I was 5, so it's really hard to say where I got them from, because I've just spoken with so many different people. I've spoken with psychologists, counselors, pastors in churches, family members, friends, teachers even. Like, I've spoken with as many people as I can about these sort of questions, because not everybody is your possession of meaning in human life. That one, I don't... to clarify that a bit, I think it's important that I clarify that one a bit now that you've rephrased, now that looking at it like that. I don't think there is actually meaning thrusted upon human life. I think we all make our own meanings in a way, which is why I say this is what generates meaning in my life. It generates that sense of purpose. But I wouldn't presume that everyone gets a sense of purpose from that. But I have personally never seen anybody who doesn't feel fulfilled and get that sense of fullness when they experience genuine connection, love, and appreciation for their efforts. Do your best, accept the rewards that come from it. We all need one another, and we all value meaningful interactions with fellow beings. There aren't other measures. There aren't other measures. Do your best. Accept the reward that comes from it. We all need one another. We all value meaningful interactions with fellow beings. There aren't other measures. Yeah, I'm not convinced that there really are. And the reason I'm not convinced that there are other measures, let's say, okay, I can get a really meaningful feeling. Yeah, I guess so. So I was like, I didn't say that. But anyway, doesn't matter. Thank you. That does help a bit. So I'll put it like this. Let's say I get a really meaningful feeling from building something absolutely beautiful. Maybe I'm on a island somewhere and I have the materials and I build myself a beautiful house and I paint it and I sand it and I burnish everything so it's a beautiful satin sheen and everything is so structurally sound that you don't even hear the creak of the wood. And I put in all of that effort. I even make my own stone, clay things, and I go through all of it, and it's beautiful. It took me years to build. I would be proud of that, but I am not convinced that anyone I know, at least, would find significant meaning in that unless they would be able to share it with someone else. if you can't share the fruits of your efforts, if you can't share that the work you've done, then it's sort of just work that you've done. And so I sort of do feel that there aren't other measures. The reason why. Oh, I wish Michael was here to read that. He'd like, he'd laugh. I'm not saying you can't get enjoyment from these things, but enjoyment and feeling meaningful are two different things. If you get your sense of meaning from purely being alone and never being able to share all the work you've done, that fascinates me greatly. I would be very curious if you had, because we've all got our thing, right? Especially when you're a little bit on the spectrum. We enjoy gravitating to a certain thing that we'll spend a lot of time on, and it will develop into something large. And it's like, okay, yes, that's a really enjoyable thing, but do you not get so much more meaningfulness from it once you're able to share it with someone who's equally as interested in that thing, and then you get to share that together?
I love the stabs, man. These stabs are absolutely, like, every question that comes in is just a dab. It's just a philosophical. It's like,
well, so far, like, yeah, that's still my outlook. Yeah. I think this one's a little left field though. This last one. Given your outlook and your background, what kind of emotions does addiction and its victims arouse in you? I'm guessing that is to my reaction to people who are addicted to happiness. I sort of did say that.
It could be that, but it could also, Daniel, it could also be when you stated that you're in your general belief that everyone is all well-meaning and all good-meaning people, and so it could also interface with that. It's like a few things that are grabbed and poked at and pulled at with that question, which I quite like, which is why I referenced it as being an absolute philosophical dab, because it is, and it's really good. I think you should dab more often. He, she, it, they. I still don't know if this is masculine sauce or feminine sauce or neither. Hello, I'd like some non-binary ketchup, please. Man, you're in luck. That's all I've got in my fridge. Okay.
I forgot to attach the genital. Oh dear, never mind. I won't go there. I'm talking about being poor.
Is this feminine Tabasco or masculine Tabasco?
You've doubtless seen grown up seeing addiction. Yeah, so
being poor in Melbourne.
My experience. Not just Melbourne, Dandenong.
He raises a valid point.
Yeah. So what kind of emotions does addiction... I'll separate addiction and the victims.
Alright.
Addiction by itself usually makes me feel, just as like addiction in general, I don't actually have too much of a visceral response. My response is usually curiosity. Why are you addicted to that thing? Why can't you do, why is that not substituted at times with other things where it might be better of an experience for you? Because the thing is you can be addicted to gaming. You can be, this is what I believe, and yes, he's right. Coming from poor areas of Melbourne, I've seen the worst that addiction can bring. I've seen people screaming down the streets, knocking on my door, asking for cigarettes and money, absolutely off their face. So when I see that, that's not necessarily addiction. They may just be on something. And so it's not the addiction I'm having a visceral response to. I'm having a response to seeing someone who is uncontrollable, who is unpredictable in a way that I could actually be hurt, or people around me could be hurt. But if you're addicted to gaming and you haven't left your chair in a while, I'll be curious, and I'll also be worried about your safety. And so addiction by itself doesn't actually give me a specific response. Victims of addiction always, there's always a level of wanting to help and lurching forward, like I need to protect you from yourself sort of feeling, and that's the visceral response I get.
Can I just point out though that I think you can't say that you don't have a response, because I think the response is curiosity. I think the response yeah. So I think
that is.
Obviously, that, but I think that needs to be just like said for the record, that there is a response with you, and that is the definite curiosity. And whether it's a curiosity of I need to help, or if it's a curiosity of I need to help myself understand it, right? Whatever it may be, I believe for you that curiosity plays the biggest part in your response, and if anything, is at least the response for you is going to be that initial curiosity. And then there's going to be other things that affect it as well. For example, is there a moral obligation that you have with this person and with the addiction in question? Yep. There's going to be the question of, is said person dressed up in an adorable fluffy rat suit? You're so cute. But it's going to be those things that come into question of, those modifiers of the response, because there are little modifiers, there are little tweaks here and there that throw in tiny little spanners in the works. But initially that curiosity is going to be the guaranteed response. It's then, will the other modifiers... Is the modifier already in play to begin with? Are we already engaged in a conversation with this person until we then, the discussion brings up things that we didn't expect to hear about them in regards to an addiction that we weren't aware of? And so now we've already have the moral obligation around them, because we know that we're with them, so we know that they are a good person to us, so we recognize that, and we have then this need to protect, as you've used that word before. That mode of protection is now in, and now it's like, now we find out about it. And so curiosity may not be the immediate response at that time, but I also think it's still going to then be an inherent response with you, even if it's not the initial response in that modified scenario. But for most other scenarios, it would be pretty chill.
He did ask what the visceral response is. So the visceral response is the yearning for more information. It's the almost childlike wonder of why. How does that magic trick work?
Yeah, I was more when I read the question, it was more, I read the first one first, not the because that visceral response was only added at the end, and so I was sort of just like going chronological order from what was there.
Yeah, well, you summarized it really well. Yeah, absolutely.
I love his I love Sauce's dabs. Sauce's dabs. They actually are like, you know how you dab sauce onto things. You know, it's like that, except it's a philosophical dab. We need a philosophical sauce bottle. Can we arrange for that, please?
What do you think about me not being on the spectrum?
That's a joke.
I need to know your thoughts on that one.
That's a joke. We all know you're on the spectrum, you idiot.
Oh dear.
Anything else you wish to add?
I'm not on the spectrum, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you've done a good job, except the problem is I know you from years ago.
Yeah.
That's your only problem, is there's no fooling me because you can't pull the wool over my eyes because
It's too late for me now.
Yeah, there's already there's certain carvings in the sandstone that's, you know, like that's there now, man. There's writings on the cave walls, sort of thing, and they scream Autismo, Gran Autismo. It's a good racing game. You should play it. Gran Autismo. My coffee
I don't have a good computer anymore.
You don't know. My coffee was really good, and I am going to now put the cup away and hop back into my glorious fluffy rat. It was indeed meant to be a joke. Well, joke or not, I'm not joking when I say that he's autistic. Why would I lie?
I know it's true.
Yeah.
I know it's true. Yeah.
He knows it's true.
Yeah, well, it definitely gives interesting insight to things like masking.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah. It really does. And that's why I really wanted to do a proper video on that, because it's like, well, it's something that I didn't realize. Like, I didn't know that was the term that was used for it. Like, when you're autistic, you just sort of just do, unless you've had a therapist that has given you words to use or given you labels to use and explained what that label actually means, etc., etc. But anyways, that's just sort of how it is.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it'd be a good chat. I think that'd be a good chat. We should definitely do that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
If we don't have any more what did you call them? Philosophical dabs.
Yeah.
I think it might be worth just quickly going over the summary of.
Okay, well then we can do that, and then I won't put the fluffy rat back on. We'll just sort of leave it for next time. But yeah, we can summarize. The truth as those people who are unable to connect with others, we have other definitions of validation, happiness than experiences shared with others.
I've
yeah,
never met anyone unable to connect with others. I've met people who struggle. I've met people that definitely have far more obstacles in their way. And for them, trying to connect even can be a trigger for trauma, like can be extraordinarily difficult. But I'm struggling to conceive of somebody because it's not that my imagination doesn't allow for it. It's that my conceptualization of human beings does not allow for a human being who is entirely unable to connect.
I think that you would need to. Oh no, but they still connect. Yeah, even your non-verbal autism people still have a form of connection, right? But it's just that they're like the need for connection is there because Like they still
Oh, that's sad.
there are many that have given up trying. Yes, there is that as well, right?
That's really sad, and
and
my heart goes out to all of them.
yes, it would be really wonderful to be able to have discussions like in this format that we've got here, with the very prestigious Philosophox channel thing. It would be magnificent to be able to connect with people who are in that boat, that are able to, openly talk about what it is that they're processing or struggling with processing or whatever it may be. And being able to have that as genuine talking points of, well, here's the real world scenario, because I really love real world scenarios from the standpoint of you cannot scrutinize it because the other person's living it, right? And it's not to say that you're now getting the be all end all, everyone who has this will be like this. It's more, well, we're connecting with someone who identifies in that boat, and while their experiences do not speak for everyone, they're here to share their experiences, and we have the chance of being able to hear that and to actively listen and to respond or to question or to deep dive into it or whatever it may be.
Speaking of, thank you, Galambino. Awfully sorry about your brains. But yeah, thank you for that little. He said, oh, you can read what he said as well.
Since I just woke up. Yeah, it has been a huge amount of information that we've discussed, and we're going to pass the blame on to our saucy friend for that, because it was the source. It was the source that delivered the philosophical spice for today, and our saucy friend will have a there will be a mentioning inside the description saying thank you to our philosophical source.
Yes, definitely. Got to add him in.
Yeah. It has to be mentions for those things, because it's been really mention. Good. Yeah, honorable mention to the philosophical source. I love it. It's magnificent.
So, as a quick summary for it, the title was Happiness, What You're Doing Wrong. We spoke about what happiness is. We agreed that happiness is something of the elated feeling or the euphoric feeling that you can get when certain events happen. It's a tricky word because it's different for everyone. And we spoke about the dangers of when you try to purchase that same happiness with something like going out all the time and going and get drinks or going and taking drugs, or you or whatever it is. It's so consumable, right? It just comes and it goes and it flitters, and the morning after or the day after you have a sort of dip down, and then you sort of start making this weird wave happen. Then we moved into how it can ultimately just be really toxic to chase that kind of happiness. But there's something else that we call happiness that is more of a longer lasting, just positive feeling, and it's more like finding it, so practicing returning to a place of enjoyment of what you can enjoy. So you bought yourself a lovely fox. You get to enjoy.
I did.
My brother
that was really well timed because I was giving him a kiss while you said that.
Perfect. My
Very
brother's
good.
got a piano that he can enjoy. I
Mm.
have a beautiful keyboard, mouse. I've got lovely clothes. This
It's the
beautiful
simple
chair. My
things.
gosh. It's the little things,
Yeah.
and it's whatever makes you enjoy your time. It's not always going to give you enjoyment, but in the times that you can enjoy it, it's it's okay to just lean into that enjoyment,
Yeah.
and that can often be a better way of having more of a longer term enjoyment of life instead of just chasing the fleeting happiness that comes and goes.
Mm. Yeah. And keep it natural. Keep it natural. Don't go forcing anything. Don't go running after
No.
anything. Don't go hiding from anything. You know, everything in life is a game of acceptance and a game of just, you know, breathing easy, because everything in this world is so much more complicated than what it used to be. We did not receive the same sources of happiness that we did back when humans were first on the planet as Neanderthals. You know, because like, what are you going to do? What? Be happy that you've sharpened your rock so you can now finally catch food. Great, right? You're happy because your rock's sharp. That's awesome, right? You know, so these are different emotions now that we're not used to because the brain does not adapt that easily to these things, and there's a few constructs in life that are really messed up from our primitive brains that we genuinely do run the risk of disturbing other parts of our brain, which is why we have, you know, as many mental disorders known as they are now, is because we've actually unlocked them, right? Because we are now very social creatures on this planet, and we're very pushing on the envelope of how far can we push people as far as performance goes for their effort, their time, the way that they provide for society, and they're providing in ways that are not the usual, well, just build a house and build multiple houses for our tribe because we're moving where our tribe is because we've found a better watering hole, right? So it's not like that. It's now like, well, you know, alcohol didn't exist back then, right? You know, and
The forbidden fruit on the floor.
oh, the forbidden fruit existed, right? The forbidden fruit existed, but these extra spicy things did not exist, and now they do, and along with them existing, so too does all the other complexities in life, which the alcohol then accelerates the opportunity for an argument to come about, and all of a sudden the arguments over all of these really complex, finicky topics that completely break apart a relationship. And then you've got the kid that's in the family that's experiencing all of that completely breaks their brain because we're used to, in our primitive state, having a tribe, our tribe being happy, and us all being just at peace and accepting of one another, and only betrayal. And betrayal would have to be really messed up, right? Because you'd have to be trying to poison your tribe pretty much. Or to, you know, betray your tribe by joining someone, another person's tribe, whatever it may be.
And we used to have a really unhealthy thing go on, which is sort of built into us. We just sort of go into an us or them sort of mentality as well, which is just as, you know, and then the whole tribe sort of kicks somebody out, and it's like, well,
yep,
maybe that wasn't the best plan, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
let's not maybe do that, but we can certainly distance ourselves from people who are antisocial. And one really cool thing that I'm so grateful for is, even though in the old days we didn't exactly have so many people all clumped up together, and you know, drugs and alcohol weren't in abundance and easy to acquire, we do have this situation where we're able to find new people, and when other people are particularly malicious towards you, we have tools that we can use to find a safe space in our life.
Yeah.
And create our own peace.
Creating your own peace. Next live video idea. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It has been absolutely marvelous. If I was wearing my fluffy rat, he would wave you all goodbye, but I am not wearing my fluffy rat, but I will hold him up and flop his face around because he's very adorable. And wish you all a wonderful rest of your day or night. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you all for the wonderful participation in this open discussion. This was truly the most engaging conversation that we've had so far, which is just magnificent. And I'm looking forward to the next one being like this and being so so open. So thank you all again.
Join us again.
And yes, and for anyone who is watching that has not subscribed, please subscribe. Please like the video because it does help us out in getting this all out there. And it's just kind of a cool thing to do because it makes me feel good. And I'm selfish and I want to feel good. So I'm selfish for wanting happiness. You know, screw you, sir. You shouldn't want happiness. That's selfish, sir. God damn it. Oh, no. Anyway, thank you again, everyone. And catch you all on the next video.